Derek, let's just start with the very basics. When people say what does the Children's Advocacy Center do? What's the answer to that?
We serve as the first stop for children that have experienced sexual abuse, severe physical abuse, or witnessed a violent crime. We're trauma focused, friendly environment for our staff and our multidisciplinary agencies to come together, collaborate, have conversation about what best direction it is for the case and the child. We try to accomplish this and limit the child abuse, the victim's abuse, by 6 core services: joint investigative collaboration, forensic interviews, family advocacy and victim support, trauma-focused therapy. We also provide medical evaluations for kiddos, and then community education and prevention, which is a big part of preventing. We'd rather prevent it than have to intervene.
So, in a nutshell, you're very busy, and a lot of people don't realize what goes on in Lubbock, Texas. But the bad news about what you do is that you're very busy, and there's a lot of activity. A lot of kids are served here in Lubbock, right?
That's correct. In 2021, we serve Lubbock County and surrounding 14 counties. We did 1,094 forensic interviews. 206 of those victims and non-offending caregivers received mental health services, which is great. 119 kiddos received medical evaluations. We reviewed 851 cases for a multidisciplinary team in case review. We also read statewide intakes, and we read 5,265 of those. But we also educated 1,004 children and people in our community outreach and prevention programs.
So let me talk about 2 of those aspects you mentioned. You mentioned therapy, you mentioned education, and as you mentioned, prevention is important. So the therapy part of it, that's a big part of what you do, isn't it? By evaluating why it's happened?
When you get above the dance floor and you're standing on the balcony and you see all the moving parts it takes in a child abuse investigation, you realize pretty quickly that sometimes the victim doesn't get lost in each discipline, but it might get lost. They may get lost in the whole process. The mental therapy, the mental health aspect of that is incredible. Our kids will get a life sentence for the traumatic event that happened to them. We need to make sure we can make them whole again if they'll work our services, and so they become productive kids and can have the coping skills to go on with life.
I want to ask you more about that because I think that's fascinating what you said. A life sentence, meaning this will affect them. Could happen when they're 6 years old or even younger, but it will still affect them as an adult, or could.
Could.
Yeah.
If not dealt with, this is going to be a lifelong thing that's going to cause them problems. And that component, that mental health component, is the most important thing. And getting the caregivers to realize they need that help. It takes effort to get them to these sessions, and it's trauma focused, which is evidence based and what is believed to be best for kids that have suffered abuse and neglect. But it's a long drawn out process, so we need that commitment from the caregivers to benefit their kids. We also provide that to the non-offending caregivers. So sometimes the parents need the same mental health benefits as well, and we need to get rid of the stigma that's bad. It's very positive, and that's what's going to give us the positive results.
Yeah, you mentioned the education, but you mentioned the parents and the victims. So, I mean, though it's very important that they are both educated, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you work with both.
They have to. The parents need to be involved in that mental health component. If a session is 50 minutes with their kiddo, we're going to spend 10 minutes with them in that, and they need to have a buy-in in that. If everybody has a buy-in, it'll be successful.
And parents may not even realize that perhaps what happened to them as a child is being duplicated.
Correct. Sometimes later in life, you don't realize until you look back that had an effect on me. We think we've moved on from things, but then every once in a while, it kind of gets brought back up. And if you don't break the cycle, it could continue. And we want to make sure those that have been offended on, they don't become the offender. And so it's an important component when it comes to that as well.
Wow, there's so many moving parts to this. Now, through what you do, I'm sure you see a lot of heartbreaking stories, but at the same time, you see success stories. So you've got both emotions definitely, maybe on a daily basis,
Yeah,
right?
it's very traumatic when they first come in. They have experienced a traumatic event in their lives, and the parents have as well, or their caregivers. But that's the thing about coming here. We're trauma focused. We got a safe environment. Let's get it addressed. We know if you'll work the services, we can get to the end of this, and we can have the best outcome for the family and the kiddo. Can't change what happened, but we don't need to focus on the negative of it happened. We need to focus on the positive, that we can get it to a positive place. Not every case is going to see the inside of a courtroom. Again, the kid can get a life sentence based on the traumatic, where in a courtroom, they may get 10 years. They may get probation. A big difference there can occur. But
Yeah.
a lot of times it's deemed with the numbers we see negative, but the positive is the intervention and the prevention starts from being re-victimized or education of the family, so there's no more victimization in the same family moving forward.
Right, right. Now explain this room. We see a lot of stuffed animals. We see books. Part of what you do with the traumatic case is to make them feel comfortable, right?
We want to ease and reduce the trauma of the child. So the child comes in here after the forensic interview is performed. They don't come in here before. It's all after they've gone in and they've had to tell their traumatic story. And these are comforting items that get donated by all kinds of folks from around Lubbock, companies, individuals, schools. They hold drives for us. And so this is all donated material. They come in here, they can get a blanket, they can get a book, they can get a stuffed animal. And that is starting that comforting process and healing, because we're all about safety, healing, and justice here at the center.
And you're all about confidentiality.
Confidentiality
That's
is
important
yes,
too, isn't it?
Yes.
It's important for the parents to know, the kids to know, everyone that
Right.
this isn't broadcast.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Let's talk about being downtown, because you've been here for what, 25 years?
Just about.
Yeah. Why downtown? Why do you stay downtown?
I think when it first came to be, we work off referrals from the Department of Family and Protective Services and law enforcement. Our other multidisciplinary team members are the district attorneys, the sheriff's office, some medical personnel, and they're all located right here. We're from the detective division and the SO investigators. We're 2-3 blocks to the north. Same with the district attorney's office. There is a DFPS office located on 10th Street. We also have a unit that offices out of the building. So all our partner agencies that we work with and provide our services for are right here. So it makes sense to us to be here where they are.
Now, you have a unique perspective. You've been executive director for what, 5 years?
5 years, yes.
5 years. So, having worked before in the Lubbock Police Department, now you come and you look at a lot of the same instances from a different angle, correct?
Correct.
So you've seen abuse, but from not this angle
Right.
before, right?
As a discipline, and when the centers were created, everybody went out and did their own investigation. Nobody shared information, nobody collaborated. And so when they got to a courtroom, nobody knew what the left hand, didn't know what the right hand had done. And it was a mess. So the centers were really created to have a central hub where an agency could collaborate and a joint investigation, help get that started, share information between all disciplines at our case review meetings. So everybody's now on the same page. The kid's not getting interviewed in the back of a patrol car or in a DFPS office. Very cold, stale, scary places for children. It's in a child-friendly environment. Going to hopefully tell their story one time. We can record that for all needed disciplines to have a copy of, and they don't have to re-traumatize themselves by telling it over and over and over again.
So we are doing a much better job than we have in the past.
Absolutely.
Basically.
That's why the centers came about. We were all over the state. We were pretty poor. It was just a poor process. Everybody was doing the best job, but you can get tunnel vision in your own discipline. And then when it maybe doesn't fit in your box, maybe then you move on, but other disciplines can't. So it's important to have that collaboration and share all that information.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I've got great stuff. I mean, is there anything we didn't cover you wanted to?
I don't think so.
Okay.
This is just kind of
Yeah.